Welcome to the Healthcare Business Secrets show, where we interview industry leaders and experts who are dominating their markets and pick their brains to figure out what they're doing and what's working and why, so that we can learn how to impact more people, generate more revenue, and live freer lives in our businesses. In this episode, we're speaking with Frank Lipman. Frank is a typical doctor, and he went to leader in non-Western medicine. He's a functional and integrative medicine doctor, one of the original pioneers in the industry. He's author of 6 books. He's working on a 7th. He's New York Times bestselling author and has been in the industry for 40 years. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
To start off, I want to give our audience a bit of a background as to who you are and how you got into this. So tell us how you kind of got started in this, how you figured out that, you know, this stuff works since you've been doing it for so long. Give us a bit of a background.
Right, so I qualified I grew up in South Africa during apartheid in the 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I went to medical school there, and I was a traditional doctor. And during my training, during apartheid, apartheid means separate. So you either had to work at a white hospital or a black hospital. And I noticed when I was working at black hospitals, when we couldn't help the patients, the family would call in the local healer, the Sangoma, and sometimes the Sangoma helped. So contrary to what I'd been told by everyone, that this is all quackery and nonsense, I noticed that sometimes they were helping. And then after I finished my training, I went to work in the bush, up north from Johannesburg, where I was from. And once again, I saw Western medicine helping for a lot of acute problems. We were doing acute cesarean sections, appendectomies, fixing broken bones, dealing with acutely ill patients. But when I used to go out into the clinics, I noticed that, some of the patients that we weren't helping, the Sangoma was helping. Then I came back and I worked at a general practice in Johannesburg. Same thing happened again. I was seeing that Western medicine was very good at acute care, crisis care medicine, but when people were coming in and they were tired and they couldn't poop and they had headaches, Western medicine was particularly useless. And there happened to be one acupuncturist in Johannesburg there, and then there were homeopaths because that was popular there. And I noticed that they were helping. So I noticed early on that my training was really good at crisis care medicine, or my Western training was really good at crisis care medicine. But this other type of medicine, whatever it was, because we called it quackery then, seemed to be helping these patients that we couldn't help. And I went to the doctor I was working in the GP practice with, and I said, Paul, what the hell is going on? Here I am. I can't help most of the people who are coming in. They're coming in with these day-to-day problems. We don't have solutions. And he said to me, listen, your job is to be there for them, support them, and people will get better in spite of what we tell them and in spite of what we do. And he actually encouraged me to go and learn acupuncture because I told him I didn't want to live under apartheid and we were leaving. And so I happened to get a job in New York as a resident, and he said, go check out acupuncture. It's quite fascinating. And that was the beginning of my journey. And I came to America in 1984. Started with a residency program because in those days you had to do 3 years as a foreign graduate in New York to get a license. Started doing my residency program, and once again noticed that we were helping acutely ill people, but we were not helping these chronic day-to-day problems. And I was pretty disillusioned with Western medicine in America, because in South Africa you couldn't do a million tests. You had to take a really good history, same as in New Zealand or in England, like GPs. You had to take a good history, examine a patient, and make a decision, but you had to spend time with people. In America, it was all about lab tests, x-rays, EKGs. There was nothing about relationships and spending time with people. And that was a part of medicine I really liked. So there happened to be an acupuncture clinic attached to Lincoln Hospital in the South Bronx where I got a job. They were doing detox. So I said, screw it, I'm going to check this out. I don't want to be a doctor in America. I'm going to check out this acupuncture program. And I walked over to this program, and in 1984, the South Bronx was pretty burnt out. That's actually how I got a job in America, because American doctors didn't want to get jobs in those areas, so they took on foreign graduates. So I went to this acupuncture clinic, and I walked into this room, and there were about 20 addicts sitting with needles in their ears, because they were doing acupuncture for drug addiction. You know, heroin and crack were epidemic in those days. So I walked into the room, and there were about 30 or so addicts sitting with needles in their ears very quietly. And I went, holy shit, this is interesting, because the same patients I was seeing in the wards were pulling out their IVs. They were swearing at you. They were very difficult to deal with. Addicts are very difficult to deal with. And I walk into this clinic in the burnt out building in the South Bronx, and here there 30 or so addicts sitting quietly with needles in their ears. So that was, you know, the beginning. I went up to the guy who ran the clinic, and I introduced myself, and I told him what my story was. And he was intrigued that I was actually interested in acupuncture, because doctors weren't interested in those days. And he took me on. He said, you can come here whenever you want. So for the next 3 years of my residency, I spent time doing my residency, and all my free time I used to go to the acupuncture clinic and started learning acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So that was the beginning of a journey. And, you know, in those days, I realized that Western, you know, it just became very clear, Western medicine was wonderful if you had a heart attack, if you broke a bone, if you had acute pneumonia, but it wasn't particularly good for most day-to-day problems. Whereas at the acupuncture clinic, that's what they were good at. So I saw early on that the future of medicine was some combination of Chinese medicine and Western medicine, where you'd use the strengths of both of them and create some form of medicine. And that's what evolved over the years. But in those days, it was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, wow. That's really interesting. So from that point on, you obviously were learning a lot of different things and trying to bring it into how you were managing clients. At that stage, did you develop any kind of protocols or systems around what you were doing, or were you still in a situation of this thing that I'm thinking might work for this patient in particular?
Yeah, there were no protocol. In those days, you were just doing whatever worked. And at the acupuncture clinic, I was doing and learning acupuncture, and at the hospital, I was doing what I had to do at the hospital. But it started a process of me thinking there's got to be a different way here. And after my residency, I got a job at a clinic on the Lower East Side. And they actually were interested in me starting acupuncture. There was a guy who was really ahead of his time who ran the clinic, and he brought me on to actually bring on, it was in a poor area on the Lower East Side there in those days, and he brought me on to actually start trying to, you know, he had a nutritionist that he wanted to start bringing acupuncture to this population. And then over the years, you know, you working with a nutritionist, and I started studying meditation and nutrition and herbs, and you start learning all this stuff and trying to create some type of system to put it all together. But in those days, no, you were just doing whatever worked.
Yeah. How do you see functional medicine and integrative medicine these days compared to how it was then with the uptake from clients? Do you see patients and things being more receptive to it now, or has it got less or more so?
Oh, much more so. You know, in those days, I was just doing my thing, and then an orthopedic surgeon actually, I helped him with his shoulder and then with his elbow, and he said, oh God, I have a sports clinic, come and work in my clinic. And then I went to start doing acupuncture in his clinic, and I'd also started developing a name, because this, you've got to remember, this is now 1987, 1988, New York City, the HIV, the AIDS epidemic. Not many people doing this stuff, and I started getting a name around the city as being someone who can help people with nutrition and acupuncture. So people started coming to see me, but it was, you know, seekers or people, you know, a lot of people in the HIV world, in the arts community, not mainstream people. So it wasn't really any time that I had to convince people. People always wanted it. just so happened that just grew and grew and grew. So I never had resistance in terms of patients. It was always people who sought me out, and I didn't have to convince them of what I'm doing, because it was all word of mouth, and someone had heard that I'd helped this person, and they came with me and started seeing celebrities. And because when you start seeing celebrities, that your name gets out and people start writing about you, and that's how it all happened. I was lucky, maybe because I was one of the early ones. I never had to convince anyone or try and sell myself. There was always resistance from the medical community and patients, doctors, but there was hardly ever resistance from patients because they had sought me out.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's, because there's
Well,
still
I thought,
continuing resistance, but
well, the two parts of that question. Why they sought me out was they weren't getting help by traditional medicine, because medicine is a crisis care system. It doesn't deal particularly well with most of these chronic day-to-day problems. The metaphor I always use is, if you're driving your car and the oil light goes on, you don't just put a band-aid over the oil light. You see why the oil light went on. You take it to the mechanic to see why the oil light went on. That's what I do in functional medicine. So people realize that they don't want to just put a band-aid over their problem. They want to see why the oil light's gone on. And then so why does why do doctors resist this? I think my generation, I'm 66. It's a little bit different to your generation. My generation, people get brainwashed to think a certain way. They're part of a boys' club. They don't think out of the box. They don't want to rattle the system, especially in America. And they just, anything that's alternative is just not accepted. But I do think it's changed. I mean, your generation is completely different. I mean, when I see older people, I have to explain to people what I'm doing and the philosophy. People, in their 20s, 30, like I have a 32, 33-year-old daughter, her and her friends, millennials and even 40-year-olds, they understand this. They've been Googling and researching and reading. They probably know more about their problem than I do often. So it's it's a generational thing. I think my generation's too lazy, have been brainwashed to think that the doctor knows everything. The next generation is different. They've been maybe brainwashed to question, which is fantastic.
yeah. Yeah. So with where you're at right now and with a number of books and things that you've written, are you still working with clients directly? Do you run programs?
Yeah. So what happened with COVID, which was very good, is I only used to see patients live. People coming in. I never, I used to get emails from all over the world, and I just didn't want to do it. And what happened with COVID is we were forced into telemedicine, which I'm doing more of now, and I absolutely love. I can stay at home and I can be on my computer and help people from home one-on-one, because I love relationships. I love talking to people. I love hearing people's histories, because you learn so much from talking to someone and hearing their stories, because their stories usually tell you what the problem is. Taking a good history is priceless. So the beauty of COVID for me has been I'm doing more telemedicine, which I can stay at home and I still have my health coach on with me, and I'm seeing people from all over the world. So in fact, including New Zealand. So I love it. But so I like that, and then I write a lot. So I like I see myself more as a teacher. Yeah, I love practicing and I love seeing patients. And it's sort of I'm like Sherlock Holmes. A lot of the people who come and see me haven't been helped by traditional medicine, so I'm trying to work out and sort out their problems that other doctors haven't helped. So I love doing that. It's incredibly rewarding to help people who haven't been helped, to help people who are really sick and who have been told that there's nothing that they can do and you're going to have to be on this drug forever. So I love doing that, and it's it's incredibly rewarding. And at the same time I'm writing, I can be at home looking at the forest I have an office with a glass. When surrounded by glass, I can write books. I can see patients. Life is is, at this stage of my life, I can spend time with my grandchild. So it's, in a way, COVID's been good because it sort of forced me into something that I never thought I would actually get into.
Yeah, I think that it's really pushed a lot of people, and it's shown a lot of us the weaknesses that we have in our processes, our systems, and our businesses, but it's also given us opportunity to find new
Yep.
strengths. And I love that you said that, because it's been very similar experience for me. And I think that's because the both of us have the way we're doing things tends towards that. I feel like the world was heading in this direction anyway, being more virtual, being more sort of automated, more systemized, more structured in the way that we deliver some of these things, programs and whatnot. A lot of my clients are working on programs to work with their clients instead of just face-to-face healthcare. But I think that we're heading there, and then COVID's just kind of sped it up.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing in terms of getting people to look at things differently. We're now more at home. We're now researching more information. We're seeing more things. And so while there is more crap out there to look at that's no good, I think that it's an opportunity for us, for people who are experts, people who have something good to share, to actually start stimulating that conversation. Have you noticed that your audience, or your viewers, your listeners, etc., have grown since COVID? More people are more aware of their immune systems, stress, their bodies, etc., and seeking more of that sort of information?
I don't know, I don't really, you're having me on a business show, and I'm a terrible businessman. I've never thought about the business aspects of any of this. I've always just done what I want to do and I believe in. I've been lucky from that perspective. I've never thought or had to, market anything or do so. I just do my thing, which is probably good and probably bad. It's a new world now, digital marketing, and I did actually hire a digital marketing team to help me with this new book. But as a general rule, I've just done my thing.
Yeah.
I do think things are changing now. I mean, it's, it was one thing when I was sort of unique. Now, like, everyone's doing it. Whether they're doing it well or not, it's another story. But and I love that everyone's, my role now is mentor more than anything else. So I like teaching. I like encouraging people to do this stuff. And I'm at a different stage of my life now. It's about chilling out more, spending more time with the grandchild.
Yeah. What
Walking on the beach.
what motivates you to write these books? What's inherently driving you to keep coming up with more content? Yeah.
Well, what motivates me is there's so much crap out there. So I always try and bring out responsible information that's user-friendly and easy to assimilate, because I think there's so much information. People are so busy. And what I see my role as is someone who synthesizes a lot of information from a lot of different modalities and even cultures, and simplifies it and tries to make it easy for people. So that's what I'm really good at. So that's what motivates me, just to turn people on to looking after themselves, looking after their families, looking after the earth. So that's what motivates me, because, I'm basically a preacher. I've seen the light. I know that the stuff works. I know it's a healthier way to look after oneself, the planet. Why not do it? Why are we subjected to a system that can be traumatizing? Why are we subject, whether it's an economic system, a medical system, a political system? If you look at the food system, if you look at all the systems, especially in America, that we have to live under, most of them are actually, maybe rotten is a strong word, but maybe it's not such a strong word. They're not particularly good or sustainable or healthy systems. So for me, the medical system is just another rotten system, and maybe it's easier for me to realize these things growing up in South Africa during apartheid, because it was pretty obvious that it was rotten. And to me, coming here, the systems were rotten. The political system here, unfortunately, is rotten. The economic system, the the food system, the medical system. So what motivates me is trying to change it, trying to, show people in a simple way that there are better ways that are better for you personally and your health, but for everyone else too, and the environment.
What inspires you in particular for, excuse me, for the content for your books? Do you have particular topics that you plan for that you think, okay, I want to write about this thing? Does it come to you after conversations and you think this would be a good angle? How do you typically go about structuring something like that?
Good question. So the books have, the last few books have been interesting. The one from the new rules of the new health rules, I was approached by a patient and writer who said, let's take your content and create a pretty book with pictures and make it very simple for people. So that was her idea, and did really well. Another book, then I decided to take that concept and expand on it. And that's how I wrote How to Be Well, which is also illustrated and made easy. So what drives me is taking a concept and making it very user-friendly and accessible for people. And then the aging book that's just come out in October was maybe a more selfish reason, because I'm aging and I'm always looking at what can be done to age well. So to me, the aging world is sort of an extension of the wellness world. I think it's the new wellness because we're all getting older. So it sort of it was born out of my search and extending my concepts of wellness into aging. And actually then the publisher approached me about doing an aging book, so I didn't have to do anything. And then the sleep book, which is coming out in May, came about because I realized that, I always talk about sleep as being such a key part of health. And I saw that there wasn't really sleep is a complicated subject in terms of, most people are starting to realize that sleep's important, but they don't really understand it. So that's sort of how the books, the concepts come. I don't really think too much about it. I just see what I think is important and what's missing, and what information I want to get out there. And books are always good for me because it makes me get into the research, and it's always a learning experience for me. So I enjoy that part too.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who was contemplating creating resources like this, whether it was a book or whether it was an ebook even on a topic? I've got a lot of my clients and listeners who not necessarily want to write a book, but want to just take some of their knowledge and frame it into a context that's more digestible for their audiences.
Yeah, I would encourage that. I mean, writing a book and going through a publisher is a whole nother story. And, it may not be necessary in the near future, maybe even now, to be quite honest. What seems to be a better avenue, and I haven't gone down that because I don't want to, I'm just used to working with publishers, is, creating your own audience and putting an ebook out. I think the whole experience and practice of writing, learning to structure it is really, it's helpful for me. It's really always been good to research, to try work out how to frame it, because it helps you articulate things. So I think I would encourage people to do it, especially find something that you're passionate about. Whether you have to go through a publisher or not is another story, but find what you're passionate about and put it down there, and then decide whether you want to do an ebook or go through a publisher. Publisher is just a little bit more complicated. And you don't make money from a book unless they start paying you a lot. If you've got a big audience, that's different. So it all depends, how you want to do it. But publishing it yourself could be the way of the future.
What's some advice you would kind of give to yourself if you were doing it all over again? Like from what you've experienced with publishing so many books in that process, what would you want to tell yourself starting again?
What I would have done is probably, if I was younger, sort of worked with some media savvy partner who could have helped me grow my audience and create my own little tribe rather than having to go through I mean, I don't think the publishers bring that much to the table, to be quite honest.
Mm.
They're going to hate hearing that. But, I think it doesn't necessarily need the publishing world. I've never got that much help from editors or the publishing world in terms of publicity or anything. Maybe in the beginning it gave me some credibility because I have all these books, but I don't know if you need that. I mean, I think if my younger self, I would say find some media savvy young person who understands the web and how all of this stuff works and do it yourself. To be quite
Yeah.
honest, that's what I think now, but I'm too old for that. So I just go through my old, I'm known, so I can go through a publisher, they'll pay me a fair amount, and,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's necessary. And to be quite honest.
When I wrote my book, it was literally to solve an immediate problem that I needed in my business for people to be aware of what I was doing and also to give solutions to problems for my audience. And so I treated it like that. I said, well, I'm going to put together a structure, call it a book. It's an ebook. And then we launched it to existing audiences. We ran ads. We did a lot of things. And we sold thousands of copies because we just went direct to what is the purpose of this thing, which is to get knowledge across in a digestible format. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Someone like you is, do you want to do a book with me? We'll do it. No, I think that's probably the way to do it rather than the old school way, which I've been doing. That's my generation. But I think probably a better way is that way, to be quite honest. I don't think publishers bring that much to the table.
Yeah, definitely. I've got one last question for you. So what would be one piece of advice you'd give to health professionals who are in business, who are looking at taking their knowledge and impacting more people that they can do, in the next few weeks? What's something simple that they can do to take their knowledge and actually turn it into a resource that helps people?
Yeah, you've got to work with what you're passionate about. Your passion will always come through. You've got to be genuine. You've got to practice what you preach. You've got to, if you feel strongly that you have something to share with the world and you've seen it work and you feel passionate about it, get it out there. But I'm not a fan of doing it the other way around, seeing what's needed and then trying to fill that niche. It's more about what you think, what you feel passionate about, and what, if it happens to be the same thing that you think, like the sleep book, for instance. I feel passionate about sleep, and I saw there wasn't something out there on sleep, so that's why I did it. But I think what I feel wary about, and maybe I'm wrong, is you see there's a gap somewhere in the market and you go try and fill that gap. I mean, that's not the way I think. But then again, I've never thought about how to do these things. But I think, find a purpose, find your mission, find your passion. To me, that's what life is all about. That's what healthy aging is all about. And then lastly is don't take yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
Got to don't think you're special or whatever. And that's where kids and grandchildren and whatever, you're just another, whatever. So I think, you've got to laugh about these things and, just do it. Do what you really believe is important and get it out there.
I love that. I love that advice, because too many of us take ourselves too seriously. And in doing so, you lose the essence. And sometimes you create these personas that are hard to maintain because it's not really who you are. And when you lead with energy, it's a lot easier to maintain.
Yeah. you've got to be real. I think it's really important,
Especially now more than ever. There's too much, as quoting a Trumpism, fake news, right? There's too many people who are not being genuine, and they're doing it for reasons, or there's too much stuff out there that's just not serving of the people. And I think that if you can be authentic in that, it works from a business sense. You attract more people because people are attracted to authenticity, and B, it just kind of changes the narrative away from
right,
poorly put together information.
Yeah, I think being authentic is really important. I've always found that important. And I think that's what people have, when people have come to see me, and why I've grown such a big practice is because I'm not pretentious. I'm not, I treat, whether you're a celeb or whoever, you get treated the same. There's no one, we just try to be kind and nice to people.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can our audience connect with you?
drfranklipman.com, drfranklipman.com.
Perfect.
And I tweet, I think it's drfranklipman.com. I'm on Facebook. I don't know why I hate Facebook. And we do some Instagram too. My health coach does the Instagram for me. But drfranklipman.com. I have a free newsletter. Put out a lot of good information. My blogs it's always generally good stuff.
Yeah, amazing. I'll make sure that's in the show notes. Thank you so much. You take care.
Thanks. Okay, thanks, James.
Awesome. That was really good. I know that this is not necessarily, in your wheelhouse, so to speak, as you said, being a business show. But I think that there's a lot of people who follow you and relate to you. And I think that that's what this is about, is hearing from people who are doing things differently, and learning from people who are doing it well. So I loved the genuineness of today's interview. Thank you for that.
Okay. Thanks, James. Good luck with everything.
One last thing I'll quickly say before you jump off is we're doing a launch for our new accelerator program for health businesses. We work with a lot of people who are got smaller businesses. They do really well, but they're just having difficulty with actually getting their message out there to impact more people. And our expertise is matching health businesses to their clientele and doing it in a way that's authentic to them and allowing them to practice in a style that they want to practice in. We're doing a launch for it, and we're looking for JV partners who have overlapping audiences with us, but are not necessarily serving them. So if you're ever interested in that, we can send you some information. The way that it works is all you do is, typically what we've done in the past is people share snippets from the interview that we've done with them, and then they just link towards our webinar or to our book. And then anyone who comes through that is tagged as a client from you. We do everything from sales to fulfillment. You're not having to be a part of any of that process. It's merely just saying, go and check out James at Healthcare Business Secrets Accelerator. And anyone who comes through that, you get a 30% commission. So we have a $10,000 program. So anyone who comes through,
send me information on that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much. You have a lovely rest of your day.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Take care. Thank you for listening to the show. If you like the episode, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. I'd really appreciate it, as it helps us get our episodes out to more people just like you who want to know how to increase their revenue, impact more people, and build businesses that work for the lifestyle they want. Now, I know your time is valuable, and I know that you are here to learn the secrets to success in your health business. So I have something special for you just for checking out the episode. Now, if you're a health professional, coach, or trainer in business, and you're serious about growing a profitable, impactful business, then pay attention, because as a listener of the show, I want you to win. And so I've created a host of resources available exclusively for listeners of the show. So if you're tired of trying to figure out this game of business, marketing, and sales all on your own, and you're ready to just implement what's already proven to work rather than reinventing the wheel, I want you right now to go and check out healthcarebusinesssecrets.com/insider. And there you'll find over $5,000 worth of trainings, resources, and coaching available only for listeners of the show. There I'll give you the resources on everything from how to acquire 10 times more of your ideal clients using social media and paid ads, even referrals, how to increase your client conversion into packages at an 80 to 90% conversion rate like me, how to retain your clients for longer, getting them better results and making them happier, how to increase your prices and charge a premium to work with you, and how you can build a multi-six, even 7-figure practice just like I did but with 1/10 of the time and 1/10 of the effort. What I want you to realize is that everything I teach comes from exactly what I did to have success and still have success in my own health business, and I want to share that with you so you can have success too. So go check out healthcarebusinesssecrets.com/insider right now and let me help you win big in your health business. Also remember to subscribe for 2 episodes every week full of the secrets to have success in your health business, as well as leave us a review so we know what you thought of the show. And I'll see you on the next episode.